Hello, everyone. This is your instructor, Dr. Yang, for your IDT5133 New and Emerging Technology class. This is the week 4 or unit 4 of this class. So last week you learned the multimedia learning principles. Now let's see what you'll be learning this week. Let me take you to your class first. Okay, now this is your class Canvas website. So last week you learned the multimedia learning principles, and you did infographics, and you did a case analysis. Let's see what this week is about. This week is about ubiquitous learning and augmented learning. So first of all, read the chapters 15, 18, and 20 in the textbook. Those 3 chapters in the textbook talk about ubiquitous learning and augmented learning. And there are additional learning resources provided here that please read before you start your assignments. All those readings prepared you for what's coming up in this week. As usual, the first week for this assignment is your devotional message. So take a look at the module 4 devotional. Here we'll talk about what does humility have to do with peace. I know we had talked about peace and how to seek peace through Jesus Christ, and this is what you want to more focus on. What does humility have to do with peace or humble? Okay. Now let's start at the second segment of this week, which is you will be working on the paper. You'll write a paper about ubiquitous learning and design strategies. So those chapters here, those chapters that you should read from the textbook already explained what is ubiquitous learning and what are the aspects of ubiquitous learning. Now, what's important for you to consider is what are the design strategies for ubiquitous learning? How you could incorporate design ubiquitous learning in your teaching or training. The chapter 5 focused on the augmented strategies for mobile and ubiquitous learning technologies. Chapter 18 talk about give you an example, which is a living book approach to teaching professional development. So the the living book approach, that's augmented learning. So you can use the case and you can learn from that. And chapter 20 is started to switch gear to focus on academic integrity in the digital era. Okay, so when what are the skills for student success using mobile technology? How to ensure the academic integrity with using the mobile technologies. So very, very interesting 3 chapters. Hope you find them very helpful. Now, in your paper, please focus on those points and address them in your paper, but do not use question and answer. So the first question is, what are the affordances of mobile and ubiquitous learning? And second, what design strategies should be considered when for ubiquitous learning? And the next, so you read the chapter 18 about a living book approach. So what are the top 3 things you learned from the living book approach? And after reading chapter 20, so how do you ensure academic integrity in the mobile learning environment? Now, the next 2 questions you want to think about, what challenges do you see as an instructional designer when designing ubiquitous learning? Of course, you need to use a minimum of 2 peer-reviewed journal articles in addition to the resources that we provided. So which means you can cite the textbook, but you also need to use additional 2 peer-reviewed articles in addition to the textbook. I hope that's helpful. So in this week, your digital activity is to create a 3D virtual game. So, so the game platform we want to use is the Game Maker user guide, sandbox.com. Make sure you read. You make sure you follow those read those templates and the tutorial, because it'll be very, very helpful. If you click that link, Game Maker user guide, and make sure you read all those tutorials, understand what's assets, what's logic, okay? And and you can use the land creation to help you start a land. Excuse me. Again, this game does not have to be complicated, but at least you can practice and give you a practice of creating a 3D virtual game. Okay, so after you created a simple, so you need to add an avatar, and you can choose the avatar in the library, adding assets and setting asset behaviors and making simple, very simple behavior interactions among your assets. So after you created a simple game, you can take several screenshots of your virtual game and post them in the discussion board. Now, questions you need to think about along with your game design is, how do you describe what's your experience like when you're creating this 3D virtual game? I hope it's your first 3D virtual game, but if it's not your first time, that is wonderful. So also tell me what you experience with using this tool. Or you can also talk about what tool you have used before when creating a 3D virtual game and how this tool is different than the tools you have used before. And we have, so in the resources, we have some guidance to give it to you for when you design games or gamifications. Make sure you read those articles and you can answer the question, what game design principles or techniques did you use in, when you design this game? And last but not least, how do you use the educational games to facilitate teaching and learning? Okay, and you only need to respond to each other's responding posts. So that is the 3D virtual game. And this week, you also need to work on your project or continue work on your project. In week two, you put together your goals and objectives. Now, based on the goals and objectives, you will need to determine what learning technologies you plan to use, and you need to plan one learning activity. So the outcome for this activity, for this assignment, is to determine the learning technologies to be used for your learning solution project. And you plan one learning activity, implement with technology. Again, I have a template here, so make sure you use a template. So in this assignment, you will first of all, you will indicate 2 or 3 learning technologies you plan to use. For example, you can use a game, you can use a video, you can use a web conference tool, you can use a app, whatever you want to choose. And then after you determine what technologies you're going to use, you design one learning activity that will use one or all of the technologies you stated previously. But Remember, your learning activity need to align with the learning outcomes you created in your project one. Now, let's look at the template. What's the title of your learning activity? For example, a virtual tour to Europe. What are the learning objectives? Use the learning objectives you created from your project one. Now, number 3, learning technologies used in this activity. Is a game, are you planning to use a game or video or a conferencing tool or a combination of those or app or educational app? Now, here are the instructions. These are instructions for your learning activity that you will design with the technologies you stated in the bullet number 3. I have a 5 steps. You might use as 5 steps. You may use more than 5 steps. So it's completely up to you. Now, here, the reason I stated, what's the first step? Think when you design activity, make sure you put yourself into the learner's shoes. What first step they need to do in this activity? What's the second step? What's the third step? It is a linear sequential order, and that's what you need to design too. So what the first step your learner need to do to work on this activity, and then the next step and the third step. And lastly, make sure you share explanation, what learning theory or theories you used in your design. Okay. And that is all the assignments you need to do for week 4. And I hope you have fun creating your 3D virtual game as well as work on your projects. And so goodbye for now. I will see you next week.